Episode 3 of The Beauty of Authenticity. This is Lisa Winston, Authenticity Coach. And we had a couple of technical difficulties today on our interview, but my brilliant, precious, authentic guest, Dr. Bryan Mallindine, actually stuck with me throughout. And we're going to go forward with this interview anyway. And it may be a little bit shorter, but we finally got things to work. It's Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th. Welcome, Bryan, to the episode.
Well, thank you, Lisa. It's always an adventure.
With me, for sure, right? It's always an adventure. Thank you so much for sticking around. Now we know, every technical issue helps us to learn to not have that the next time, so that's good. Yeah, so anyway, welcome, Bryan, so much. I want to let everybody know today that you are you're one of my dear friends, but you're also a very authentic, beautiful, brilliant being doing amazing things in the world, and so I really wanted to feature you, and again, I want to get as much information in as we can. I want to give it just a little bit of background on what you do, and then you can, as we ask questions or go through the questions, you can explain more about who you are and what you do. But Bryan holds many titles, and he is just absolutely amazing in everything that he's doing in the world. He's got a PhD in neuroimmunology. He's a master herbalist. He's a spiritual healer, a coach. He does advanced quantum biofeedback. I don't know, he speaks 4 languages. He's a single dad. He was featured on the Discovery Channel as a health hero. So he is really making a huge difference in the world, and he is an absolutely amazing being. So with that said, Bryan, let's get into your interview, not waste any more time. But anyway, maybe you can give everybody a little bit of an idea, because what I'd like to show is kind of where you came from, your background, any experiences, challenges that you might have had that led you, from that space to where you are right now. So if you could give a little bit of a detail about where you came from, maybe some challenges you had before you actually stepped into your passion and your purpose, that would be great.
Well, sure, and as part of that, the definition of authenticity is, the first one is transparency, the second one is alignment with really what is, and with the outside reflecting the inside. And that's what authenticity is. So on that journey, it's been incredible discovery on it. So transparency, I remember doing the breakthrough training when it first came to Orange County in 1994. And I met 40 strangers, and then they give you their feedback without you saying anything. And even a person with a grade 6 education, it's amazing the insights they had. And I realized, why try to hide? Why not? Because everyone sees it anyway. They may not say it to your face, but they all know. And that really shifted. They're like, full disclosure, this is it, what it is. Then the next part is aligning with what is. And as you know, Buddha says, all suffering is created by resisting what is. So Feelings Buried Alive Never Die is all about erasing the illusions, particularly starting with mom and dad. And a lot of people have fantasy bonds around mom and dad, and if we don't see mom and dad clearly, we're not going to see ourselves clearly. And as you know, we tend to replicate our childhoods unconsciously. So we choose a husband or a wife that is like the parent we really haven't healed with yet. So we're replicating our childhood and so forth. And what are we really doing? And the third one is that the outside represents the inside, and that's where people look at, hey, they're kind of phony, because I remember so many public speakers, I think in the last 10 years, we've had a shakeout of speakers. I call them the fluff speakers, where they say one thing and do another, or they have an interesting quote. And on that journey, I've had wake-up calls and everything else, because it's about being on our soul path, not our ego path. And yet, on our ego path, we're manifesting wake-up calls, we're blaming other people, we're not connecting the dots. And really, it's like, wow, why did I manifest that wake-up call? I was really proud of my son. He had a motorcycle accident, and I was in Marietta, and I immediately drove to the hospital where he was. And he said, Dad, I figured out why I manifested it. And it wasn't the victim energy and blaming other people and everything else. He was really focused on why he manifested it. And that's where we all have to go. And my journey's been diverse. Different countries, different things, but I had to learn wherever you go, there you are. It really doesn't matter. You can travel, you can spend money on things, and you can avoid, but eventually the wake-up call will be there. It'll just keep getting louder, and usually wake-up calls are in health, financial, or relationship. Or the super stubborn people get all three. And so
Yeah.
it's been an
Exactly.
incredible journey that way, in so many other ways too.
Yeah, but I mean, did you experience a lot of struggles? Like, you had challenges like everybody. We all have challenges. But I mean, did you experience moments of self-doubt, when you really didn't know who you were? You knew you were, I think you, like all of us who are doing this, you felt called to something greater. But I mean, did you have struggles? Did you get stuck? Did you experience doubts and stuff as you were going
Oh,
through all?
sure. So I used to do a lot of turnarounds in companies. I'm an MBA CPA, and I noticed that just things get worse before they get better. And then in the detox world, if you detox, you get worse before you get better. And it's when you're in that valley stage, because I really agree with the statement, without any valleys, there would be no mountains. And when you're in that valley, you just have to believe and faith and, desire, determination, dedication to just kind of ride through it. And I'm a big whitewater rafter with Bird Circle in Northern California and in Oregon and Washington State. And it's really interesting because in my childhood, the pain was so great, I either lived in the future or the past as a way of dealing with it. And whitewater rafting, you can only be in the rapid you're in now. You can't worry about the next rapid. You can't. And that really taught me the law of the present moment. Just be there. And it really helped me shift. So I think it was many things coming together. And no, I didn't really see a higher calling. It's kind of, when I look back, I've been led a certain way, sometimes dragged a certain way to get to the place I am now.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that about the raft and everything. It's about being in the present moment. And it's interesting that you didn't really feel that call because you are, you are doing so many different things. So I guess I'm kind of curious as to, where did you start? Because you've gotten a lot of degrees, you do a lot of different work in a lot of different areas. And so how did you start finding out where it is that you wanted to go? What sparked your interest? I know you're really interested in, it seems like, quantum physics and, that kind of stuff, but you also do other aspects too. You do I think you do Akashic records and you do all kinds of different things. So, like, where did you start and
Well,
did that feed into?
I met a lady in the 90s who gifted me angel cards. I'm like, angel cards, okay. And then every night, my son and I, he's very young, we'd pull a card. And it was really interesting. If he got a card he didn't like, he'd want to put it back. I said, no. And then we use it as a discussion purpose, kind of, what does this mean and how does this apply to our life and that type of thing. And then I kept meeting people and I'd be astonished that every step of the way I'm always amazed at what I don't know. Like, wow, this is incredible. Where'd this information, why wasn't it out there 20 years ago? Or maybe it was, and so forth. So it's been many different ways. That's really how I started. And then learning more things and then going to an event and challenging. And I knew my life wasn't working. So example, in 1 year I had a phenomenal in Encinitas, California, for my son and I, a music therapist. Well, I didn't know that I needed to feel safe to tap my emotions. No, I didn't realize that then. And two, that 95% of our choices are subconscious. So I knew a lady who had all the quotations and read all the books, but that was the 5% she didn't heal because she didn't get to the 95%. And when the music therapist would read to me what my subconscious beliefs were, I said, well, no wonder my life's not working. Is that what I really believe? And so, like, wow, it's been a journey every step of the way. And it's almost like fixing a classic car. You think you're, okay, I'm there now. I replaced every part. And then something else like, wow, I have another wake-up call. What does I have to learn now? And so it's just been an incredible journey, constantly learning and adapting and so forth.
Wow, that's beautiful. You have a real desire to learn and grow, and I love the fact that you're so open because so many people are stuck and they're afraid to address their fears and they're afraid to move forward. And you're just this open vessel. You're excited about learning new things. You're really into self-improvement and your evolution, which is really phenomenal because that's what it's all about. If you don't evolve, you can't really get to a higher space and start serving the world and doing a lot of stuff. So that's really impressive. I love it. It's beautiful.
Well,
So
Barbara DeAngelis made two comments. One was, it's not about finding the right partner, it's about being the right partner. And number two, she asked, how can you commit to someone else in a relationship if you're not committed to yourself?
amen.
So I remember a lady in my life once said to me, Bryan, you're trying to change me. And I said, absolutely, and I want you to change me too. Our life's not perfect, so what is the resistance? And of course, what she was saying was, I have a childhood wound that I was never fully accepted by my parents, so I want to feel accepted. But to accept ourselves on authenticity, who are we accepting? Our coping mechanisms, our false images, our illusions, is that what we're accepting? And she thought, she was just silent and looked at me, but I was being very real. That's true about all of us. Who wants a relationship where we're not helping each other change and grow and develop? Again, I can't be committed to somebody else unless I'm committed to myself.
Yeah, and I love that. And I mean, it has to do with self-love too, you know? I mean, I've just learned recently that also we all have this tendency for, we have expectations and we have attachments, you know? We have a relationship and of course we're mirrors of each other, so we trigger each other. But again, if you don't have somebody who is on the same page as far as wanting to improve themselves, then it's really difficult to move forward in any kind of relationship. And then self-love. And then attachments. I mean, did you find that you had a lot of attachments that you had to work through as well, or that's, you know?
Oh, sure, illusions, and it's really fascinating. The part of the brain, if I'm emotionally attached to a belief for many years, maybe I believe that that belief is part of my identity, then the part of the brain that is activated when somebody challenges that belief is the same part of the brain as if a hungry lion is chasing you. That's why you see people react so strongly to it. So I remember a lady once saying to me, "You want me to hate my parents?" I said, "Of course not. Just be conscious of their wounds, their nurturing deficits, so you can understand your programming to be a better partner, better mom, better friend, better career." That's all it is. It's not about hating them. So many people have this thing where they've got to protect their parents with that fantasy bond, instead of just seeing them for who they are, which is wounded people, and which we all are. And they were probably wounded by their parents, wounded by their parents. So it's not about hating them, it's just seeing them clearly, erasing the illusions, and then incorporating it. How have we taken part of mom and dad in our life, and so forth. So to me, it's all amazing.
It is amazing. You know, I realize that too. You know, a different generation, but our parents were definitely affected by their generation, the generation before them, and a lot of times they weren't as connected. You know, we have a different energy in this time and space now where people are really starting to improve, but our parents kind of were like stuck in that mode, and they were doing the best they could. It's like when I raised my daughter, I made a lot of mistakes, and I was emotionally, you know, a total mess, and I did the best I could, and, you know, I can't go back and undo it. You know, I could just move forward from here. So you're right, just loving them, embracing them, and the blame game doesn't work, you know, so you have to just move forward from that space. That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. What I want to talk.
I'd like to respond that one, if I could, the blame game. It's interesting. The people who play the blame game tend to attract the neighbors. So I'm actually writing a book now, how women can be better girlfriends to girlfriends, because I'm amazed at how many neighbors go in there and just keep them stuck, pain, and ensuring that their next wake-up call is even greater. And it doesn't serve them. And when are women going to be better girlfriends to other women, where they hold them accountable? Oh, wait a minute, you've manifested this type of man 3 times in your life. What are your issues? How do you mirror him? Instead of, oh, blah, 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 whatever. And it's just amazing to me that you can tell a lot by just the people they select in their lives. The second point is Bruce Lipton. Bruce, he and I were talking to the Women's Wellness Conference in Costa Mesa last September. And as you know, his research shows 50% of our beliefs are downloaded the day we're born. And we're not even conscious of it. Now, how many of those beliefs come from our great-grandparents, our great-great-great-great-grandparents? And maybe my great-great-great-great-grandfather from 200 years ago, that belief worked for him. But it may not work for me now, and times are shifting. And authenticity, if you notice, everyone's being exposed. It's really quite fascinating, because with the planetary shift, the people, including the narcissists, their old coping mechanisms don't work anymore. They have to come, because everyone's seeing through it very clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's true. Yeah, it's beautiful. And you did bring up a good point. I mean, it does come from, it can be past lives, it can, you know, past generations, whatever. There are a lot of beliefs that we hold. That's pretty incredible that all that stuff is downloaded before we even get started. It's pretty crazy, huh? But
it's really.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, gosh, I could sit and talk to you for like hours, but since we got a late start, we're going to do the best we can here. What I really wanted to get to, though, was, you know, you have so much information. Maybe we'll do another interview where we can get into more of the stuff that you teach, because you do so many amazing, incredible things. But what I want to do in the time that we have left, I really want to talk about, you know, what has living from this powerful space of authenticity for you, what has it led you to do? I know you're part of a lot of immensely incredible things, and I know that you serve a lot of people. You really have a heart to serve. You really help a lot of people. Can you like just take us on a little journey about, you know, what you do and now that you, I mean, we're always evolving, don't get me wrong, I get that, but I mean, you really are, you know, on fire. You're living a life that's on fire, and you're doing so many different things that you're passionate about. So maybe just give everybody a really, you know, an overview of all the really cool stuff that you do. Explain about what it is that you do that you're passionate about.
Well, my main focus is to bring technologies to the planet through the power of the feminine, through women, and that will change the consciousness of the planet, and doing it from another country. So we're in the process of setting all that up. So let me explain. Why the power of the feminine? If I'm with a man in a room and I say, if I hit the light switch, the lights come on, most men are tracing the cable to prove that if you hit the light switch, the lights come on. Women don't do that. Women say, I just trust if I hit the switch, the lights come on. I don't have to prove it.
Yeah.
Women make 84% of the household healthcare decisions. In general, not in all cases, women are more emotionally evolved than men. So combining all that, I really believe as we head into the power of the feminine, that women are the key to making all this work. Now, we also know from Martin Luther in 1615 that he said, this is crazy. Why do all the people have to go through the priest to get access to the Bible? And he challenged him. The Pope issued an edict for him to be killed, but the Prince of Germany kept him alive. And he translated the Bible and started distributing to individuals. So in other words, bypass or disintermediation, remove the middle person. By giving people their own technology that they can scan themselves and understand and take responsibility, and eliminating the middle person only makes sense. And that's why I shared the Martin Luther context, where you don't necessarily have to go to church to have some alignment with Creator. You can be there on your own, and people are realizing that, and so forth. So that's my real focus right now. I've done some other things in research and development. And I want to emphasize when you talked about accomplishments, what do an overachiever and an underachiever have in common? The same wound, I'm not enough. But by the time I realized that and healed the hole in my soul, it was too late. I'd already done that stuff. I would have done a lot of that stuff if I'd healed already. But you know, accomplish. And that was just so I could feel good about myself from the outside. And it's really interesting to watch a Wizard of Oz. You know, here's the thing from the outside. And they said, Dorothy, it's always been inside of you. And that's true about all of us. But who knew that? So.
That's awesome. Okay, and that's beautiful. I love you working on the divine feminine and everything. That just is so exciting, and you're such a connected man. You know, a lot of men aren't connected to that feminine, and you know what's going on with that, because that's evolving, and you know the feminine energy we're becoming more balanced. Hopefully, that's what we're moving towards. But I still want you, if you had to pick a couple of the things that you do. Like, you know, we've listed your accomplishments. I know about the overachieving and all that kind of stuff. But what is it that you also do? And you're writing a book, and I know you're working on this project that you just explained. But what are are there other things that you do that you really still enjoy, that you're passionate about?
I'm really passionate about is facilitating transformation. So it's really interesting. What can we learn from Lieutenant Columbo? He knows the answer, but he asks the question anyway. And so just asking questions. And I've, of course, done transformation in terms of corporations. I was a professor at UCSD. I hosted a radio talk show and with individuals and groups. And so many people are suffering. And as you know, the emotional body precedes the physical body. So people are having physical symptoms because they have trapped emotions. And Dr. Carolyn Mee showed us, if I preserve some level of denial, then that level of denial will have to borrow from my physical selves. And that's how I'm going to have trauma or get ill. And there's so much incredible knowledge. Now, you mentioned quantum physics. I was totally against any physics in high school. I was a hockey player. I was an oarsman at the Argonaut Rowing Club in Toronto. Physics, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But later on in life, I started getting exposed to quantum physics, and it just made so much sense. And what it does, it's where energy and matter are interchangeable and challenging. And then from there goes so many things. Right now, we have 4,500 people in America with spontaneous remission of cancer, where 5 minutes later it's gone, and how did they do it?
Wow.
And so really get into all that stuff, and how epigenetics, where it's no longer, we know it's not true. Your genes control your health. Your family belief system controls your genes, which control your health. And I always remember, Lisa, that day when we had lunch, where you asked me, you asked, Bryan, how can you tell the difference between a male chromosome and a female chromosome? And I said, I don't know. And you said you pulled down this. And that makes to me.
That's pretty amazing. I love it. Oh my God. I know we're overdue. We have to have lunch again and talk about other things. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's beautiful. Thank you. And you know what? I want to keep this going a little while longer. I know that you do transformational work. You're a coach, and you do you work with a lot of people in healing the body and the emotions and balancing everything. But can you spend a little bit of time maybe giving some really cool strategies or tips or something that the people who are watching can take away with how can they move forward in their transformation to step into
Oh,
their authentic
absolutely.
self?
Stage one, absolutely. So if I have a GPS and it does not have an accurate origin, I will never get to my destination. So I've got to start with an honest assessment. Now, when you do that, some people react like, "Oh, well, you're judging." There's no judging. We have to get, I'm not judging. I'm in Rancho Mirage right now, and that's a judgment. You have to start with what is, because the description will precede the prescription. So we've got to go back to where the person's, what you started with me. Where have they come from? What's really going on? What's an accurate starting point? Erasing all illusions. And so I developed a AAA program, awareness. Most people are aware. Acceptance is the issue. So if you and I have a friend who's an alcoholic, and they're aware that they drink a lot, but they don't accept it's a problem in their life, the third day of action is futile. They're just going to be angry with us if we try to do anything. So it's all about accepting, and the best way to do that is with Lieutenant Columbo type questions and help them on a period of self-discovery and whatever. But it's amazing how many people think you're judging if you just try to do an accurate assessment on somebody. Let's stay away from that. Let's stay away from that. No, we need to go there. It's not about judging. To have an accurate assessment, a starting point in the GPS. That's the first stage. The second stage is, do I see my parents clearly? Do I see myself clearly? As you know, there are tools like the Johari window, where how other people perceive me and how I perceive myself. Have you ever met anyone out there where they don't seem to have a clue how other people perceive them?
Yes.
I remember being with a lady, and she introduced me to her friends, and immediately they pulled me aside and said, she's not authentic. Well, I thought they were bad friends, but I realized later they were just telling me the truth of what they perceived there. And why didn't they tell her? Because, how would she react? So one of the next keys is we have to surround ourselves with people who tell us what we don't want to hear. That's so important for all of us, because here's an example. So I'm sitting with you, and then you say, Bryan, do you know you're behaving just like your dad? And I go crazy, like my dad. Are you crazy? I'm not my dad, because I'm in my 95% subconscious. I just don't see it. I'm not conscious of it, but you see it clearly. And so by reacting, so we have to surround, and I remember always, as a professor, teaching a class, I always had groups give other groups honest feedback, and the response was, thank you for caring enough about me to be honest with me. And, society's not like that. People don't share it. They keep it to themselves. Or if they do, we don't react well, and we have to really, really be open to that. And I think those are some of the keys. And then we can get to, why did I manifest this? And there's so many tools. My parents may not have had may have great excuses for not self-developing, but nobody else does now. Tools on the internet, access to Lisa Winston, all these things. I remember interacting with you a few years ago, and Alita, and we talked to my higher self. And I said, oh my gosh, I have adult supervision. Did you hear what my higher self said? Like, wow, there's an adult in the room. It shocked me. It was like, wow, what a journey. And so I think there are a number of different things, and those are some of the keys. Until we have an accurate assessment of who we are, then we can't really go from there, because we don't have a accurate origin on the GPS.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we're all at different places too. I mean, like, there are so many tools like meditation and, books. I mean, I took every seminar on the planet, for years trying to find my way, which actually led to, this, but it took a long time for me to get there. So, I mean, I don't know, if people are starting out, obviously they have to want change, because a lot of people resist change. But,
well, I would like to respond to that if I could.
Yeah, please do.
Everything is frequencies. Everything is. So what I do is, if you a liver isn't supposed to be a certain frequency. If it's not, it's not going to be healthy. So if a liver is 2/3 cancerous, the 2/3 of cancerous has a different frequency from the healthy part. And we could do a whole session and get into Dr. Royal Rife and all that stuff. But willingness to look in the mirror and shift is 310 hertz. 82% of the population is at 207 or below. They're not there. Why aren't they there? Because most people have so much interference between their higher self and where they are. And the first thing we have to do is remove that interference. Very first thing, and connect it, because otherwise we can't. What are the sources of interference? There are so many. Post-traumatic stress disorder, some nutritional deficiencies, foreign energy disturbances, beliefs transferred from mom that we're not willing to admit, programming, all those things. And sometimes not everyone, this is where I challenge a lot of spiritual healers. Most people really don't have free will. My analogy is what my aunt told me once. If she were at Marine boot camp and for 3 days some guy yelled at her, "You're not good enough, you're not good enough," she'd say after 3 days, she'd stand up and say, "You're right," and she would go home. Not everybody has the determination to go over the mountains in the snow in bare feet. Some people do, not many. Most people need help. They need help in removing that interference to allow them to make a conscious choice for them. Because remember, 95% of our choices are unconscious. We just don't know. We're still following mommy and daddy's programs. That's why you see people marry their mom or dad, and then they replicate it, and then their child ends up in the same position and whatever. And it's about really being conscious. And it's right, Bruce Lipton has a great book, you know, Honeymoon on Earth, that we can live it here, but we've got to be conscious. We've got to, you know, break out of that and not do the autopilot, which most of us do. I mean, I've done it. We've all done it at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to give a little plug about what you do? How you
not
can?
At this time. Not at this time until we're
okay.
ready, to be honest. And I'm really just here to be of service and provide information. And you know, you and I are so connected and bonded, and anything I can do for you, you know, whatever that is, and love to share it. And just, it's been a journey. I always say, if there's hope for me, there's hope for anybody. So.
Oh, amen. I say that about myself as well. Oh my gosh. You know, it's just that you do so many things, and I think we could have a 3-hour conversation about all the different cool things that you do. It's amazing. I don't even understand half of it. I just know it's miraculous, and I don't even, you know, I guess the information just flowed. You were the vessel, and it came through you, right? I mean, all the techniques and all the things that you've developed.
And I have some great brain herbs. I want you to know that.
You have what?
I have some great brain herbs.
Oh. Okay. We really do need to do lunch. I've missed you. Okay.
You too.
Yeah. All right. So we're at about a half an hour, which, I mean, again, I'm trying to cram everything into a short amount of time, but wow, just beautiful. I love who you are. I love your authenticity. I love, you know, that you're so aware and connected, and you're helping so many people. It's miraculous. It's beautiful. And I'm so happy that you joined me today. Before we go, a couple of things briefly. Do you have any maybe some parting wisdom that you can give to the people who are watching? Something that you think is really important, some message that you'd really love to get out that you think is critical for people to hear?
Well, I think it's what I started with. The first thing is, you're not fooling anybody. Oh, here's, you know, personality is derived from the Greek word personae, meaning mask. Here's what I am, here's what I am. Everyone knows the truth anyway. And I shared with you what I did at breakthrough training, that I learned that. And I see people all the time, just be authentic. Here it is. Here's my wound. Here's my issue. What else do you want to know? It's no big deal. The other one is align with what really is. Don't resist what is. So sometimes, oh, I don't want to look at this person like this. So sometimes some of my biggest pain in life, well, my biggest pain was looking in the mirror and seeing who I really was, because I didn't want to be like that. The irony is, until I accepted it, I couldn't shift it. And so for all of us, just this is what is. Doesn't mean we want it, but then real shift can occur. And then the third one is making sure the outside reflects the inside. And if you know, a lot of people, the perception out there is they see somebody extreme in the outside. For example, I've been talking with a lady in Victoria all about some of these people with extreme cosmetic surgery, where it's so noticeable that the automatic perception is they must be overcompensating for the lack of the inside or whatever. And you do things, do them subtly, but if you do extreme, because everything comes into balance. So a true lion doesn't have to roar. So if you meet a person who everything they tell you is, I'm like this, I'm like this, I'm like this, is to offset probably that they're not. And so to me, that's what authenticity is.
Beautiful. That's so true. That's amazing. It's a beautiful wisdom tidbit. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, Bryan, how can people get a hold of you if they'd like to learn more about what you do and who you are and the things that you teach? How can they get a hold of you?
Well, the best way would be emailing me, bryanmallindine@gmail.com. Bryan Mallindine Mallindine @gmail, or just reach you and then you have all my information. So
That's right. Don't forget, it's Bryan with a Y, right? I love that. And they could also just look you up. You know, you're all over the internet, so there's a lot of information about you, which is beautiful. Well, oh my gosh, Bryan, you are just one of my favorite people on the planet. I love you. I thank you so much for your service to mankind and all the things you're doing, and you know, your authenticity, your transparency, your honesty. It's just absolutely beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing. I'm sorry, so sorry about all the challenges we had today, but thank you again for sticking with me so that we could actually get through this and get it done. Because I know there were a lot of people who were looking for it.
It is Friday the 13th, Lisa, and
I know, but I'm not even superstitious.
it's all about recovery. I just saw a black cat go behind you by the.
I was just going to ask you that.
I know. I asked your higher self.
Are we like connected or what? That is so funny. Anyway, oh my gosh. Well, you have an amazing day. Thank you again so much for joining me. And everybody, please join me next Friday, hopefully on time, 10 to 11 Pacific Standard Time, for episode 4 of The Beauty of Authenticity, where I bring you more absolutely beautiful, connected, transparent people who are just beaming examples and out serving the world and doing things that they love. It's just amazing, and it's such an exciting, series, and also an honor to interview all these people because I just love them. I do. Even when I don't know them that well, I love their authenticity. So join us next week at next Friday, again, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Bryan, I just don't know when we're going to see each other because we're both really busy, but I love you. Stay connected. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep, changing the world. And I hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for being with me again today.
Oh, thank you so much. Buena Janata, Lisa.
Namaste. Everybody have a great day. Thanks, Bryan.
Bye.
Bye.